Welcome to the Nonsensus. My name is Zakery Winchester. I am here audio visually connected to one Sanjana Singh, who is elsewhere. I am here. Where are you?
I'm not gonna say, but I'm in India at the moment.
You're not going to specify because that's a big
Yeah.
puzzle piece. Yeah, I'm in North America. We could weed it down. We could whittle it down. I'm neither in Canada nor Brazil.
Hmm.
I am oh, was that would have given away too much. I'm not landlocked entirely,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not adrift in the ocean.
That's interesting.
All right, this is going to give it away. I'm on a peninsula.
Huh.
A peninsula that looks like the hand of God
Damn.
with a dragon over it that wants to annex and become its own state, or at least has attempted to in the past, so I've been told. We're in reality. And where
Mm-hmm.
is that? Where is reality to you?
Somewhere in the Southeast Asia region.
That's where
I,
all of reality is?
the entire reality is there. So hear me out, right? The current situation of the human condition is bad. It's very detrimental because when you look at the geopolitics, when you look at the economy as a whole, when you look at just just the condition of humanity across all sphere, it seems to me as if we're all headed towards some sort of a dystopic catastrophe. Now I don't know what it's gonna be, but it seems to be. I'm not saying that there's gonna be an apocalypse because that's more biblical way of saying everything. But I do see things getting bad in the future because like when we look at the entire Russia Ukraine situation, right? It just makes you wonder. Like one day, one guy just like goes a bit crazy and he's like, okay, I'm just gonna invade a country right next to me and see what happens, and he does that right away. Doesn't think in his head for a second what happens to the citizens of his own country with all the sanctions coming in. Doesn't think about the amount of people getting killed. Doesn't think about all the money getting lost. Like it's nuts, and it's such a big catastrophe. And so when you look at Russia, Ukraine, then also you go back all the way to Afghanistan issue. Nah, like we're headed towards something bad, and also like the free speech and just like cancel culture, it's crazy out there, and so
That's true.
that's that's why I'm saying we're headed towards a dystopic. Like I don't know what's gonna be like, but it seems pretty bad. Like we need to take care of where we are right now. Like we talk about going to Mars, but we need to take care of this right now here, Earth.
Agreed. I think that the way so you're saying it looks like it's going to be bad. And you don't know that that's true at all because we have demonstrated the ability to pivot. And if it was one thing that humanity does time after time is when pressed, then something new emerges. And sometimes that creates a game B, just completely changes the story. We are at that point now where we need to jettison from the dinosaur bones of the nightmare of history. We're there. We're at it now for sure. Yeah. And it's been not only bad, it's been as horrible as we can possibly, as we've demonstrated to possibly imagine. It's as horrible of things and experiences as could be imagined is the past, is what I observe. And then
Hmm.
so now though, the present is waking up amongst a lot of the evidence of the past and a lot of the and then, and it's not just external, it's like we're in it, we're in the stories, we're in the loops. Like, materially, tomorrow doesn't need to have all of the stories of the past. I mean, it's gonna, but it materially, that doesn't need that. That's where we come in as humans. Like, we've got all these stories. We've got a global Mexican standoff of world-ending thermonuclear missiles.
Yeah.
How did we get to this place? The past. Where are we now? We have options. We have the option to annihilate ourselves in the attempt to just annihilate one player's enemies, or and I pray to fuck that's not the way it goes down. I also pray to fuck that I pray to Lord fuck. I never said that before. I pray to fuck. I pray to God. I pray that that it doesn't go super wonky super quick with AI stuff, because there's a million different ways that could happen. But there's also a million different ways that AI could happen. It could be like all of our old problems could become entirely irrelevant very quickly via AI. Right? Like,
Yeah.
what if we just, like, it seems like it could be an exponential, a rapid going from point humans are working, and everybody has to be kind of under the gun to some degree of hard power, either hard power or labor. And then there's like these which I see through my Western lens, is like these bastions of freedom where people are able to at least claw their way, higher through free markets and stuff. But we're all obligated. And what I would really actually like is a reality, the musical, the festival, where human beings are like just these not obligated animals, obligated only to survival's covered. So now what do we do with consciousness?
Interesting. So
Do you hang out with cats?
What?
Do you hang out with cats often?
We have cats here, but they're afraid of everyone.
Hmm.
So if you go near them, they just they're not there anymore.
All of them?
All of them are like that. I mean, if you have a pet, that's different. But most of the stray cats, they're like that.
Okay. Yeah. Have you spent time with a domesticated feline creature much in your life?
I have some turtles here.
Yeah.
That's what I spend my time with.
What do the turtles look like they're worried about? What do you think they're thinking about? What's their concerns?
Honestly, so I named my turtles hilariously enough after all of the German idealist philosophers, because there's this huge joke, right? There's this huge joke that and it's not a joke. I think it's but it's hilarious that the system of German idealism was never completed. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get my turtles, and initially I thought I was only getting two, right? So I named one Schelling after Friedrich Schelling, and the other one I was gonna name Fichte or Hegel or something like that. But the other one tragically expired.
Died.
And yeah, yeah, I don't know why I said.
Did it die of death, or did it die of like something died it?
It had like pneumonia, so it just
Shit.
it's tragic. And then so we got like four more. So now I have like five of them, but like four of them are like really small, like they're like babies, So I named them Victor, Hegel, Maimon. See, I don't even remember. That's the hilarious part. And all of their shells are different, right? So I'm just trying to memorize the shells and the names so I don't get it wrong. But I mostly get it wrong.
Do you think that if you took a month vacation away from these turtles and came back, that you might mistake them for each other and then just from then on live in the reality tunnel that this one is shelling and this one is? Do you think that's possible, that you just switch them up?
The thing with shelling is that shelling is big. The thing with the others, like the Fichte and Hegel and Maimon and dude, what is the other guy? Like, how did I forget? There's another philosopher that I'm missing. Holderlin. They're all the names are hilarious, right? So yeah, I'm 100% with you there.
Are you gonna bring these turtles here? Is that possible?
No, I don't think I can. That's the thing.
You think that you can't? I mean,
if I can, then I'll bring shelling because I'm very attached to that one.
people fly with cats a lot in the US.
Huh. I don't know about international flights, and I don't know about like direct international flights, which are like 16-hour long.
Yeah. Who's
Yeah.
gonna feed the turtle? It's not because the only thing you would be able to have, you'd have to have the turtle in some sort of carrying device. I don't think you're gonna be able to bring these turtles. We got turtles here. You got somebody who's gonna take care of those turtles?
Yeah, my brother.
You trust him?
I mean, I have to. I have to. I have to. Like,
Just like, you know, giving somebody a cat is one thing, because it's like, you take this cat, they fall in love with the cat, they now are helplessly just obligated to this cat emotionally. Give somebody a reptile, that emotional connection might not form.
Yeah.
Also, but you say it with the cats and the metaphor of cats, which is obvious. So but I'll just keep it on cats, because I want this to be a purely philosophical and scientific podcast, and we're not getting into emotional territory. But cats are both the inspiration of my art and life and the bane of my existence. The way that the mysteriousness of their behavior, but I am helplessly devoted to cat. There's a cat that now lives at the house that I'm at, and it just screams in the stairwell. His name is Swayze, and I just hear scream. Yeah, like Patrick Swayze is an American actor. Is Patrick Swayze known throughout the world?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I hope.
What was really big of his? What was the biggest thing? Like I know him from Point Break. My mom loved Keanu Reeves, still does. But anyways, Pat Swayze, the cat. I wake up in the morning to, it's constant. And just like really like crying out for something. And then you go and if you go and you approach him, he just looks at you and with like this like angry confusion of like, why aren't you helping? Kind of looks like, and then you try to interact. You know, I could imagine like, what can I do? I could feed you, I could pet you. I could feed you, I could pet you, I could be around so we could just sort of parallel each other's energy. Like sometimes there's a human who like is just like, what I need now is someone to be present, but not making it so there needs to be an active interaction. But like, and so I'll just go out in the stairwell and I'll sit in the stairs, and sometimes like a warming up, and then like a very triumphant like petting and like, you know, interaction will take place, and other times not the fuck at all. And and there's it's hard for me to tell what's different about me in that time, but the cat is so mysterious. And I have had times before with cats where I've been like, I'm not taking huge chunks of time and mental and emotional real estate to have better relationships with cats, because there's no logical do this and that, be this and that seems to be proving to be consistently effective at not being accepted sometimes and rejected other times. So I would give up on the cat. There was times and I would live with cats and I just wouldn't regard them much. And now, but with this cat that I live with here, I'm just like where I've come to, and at the age of 33, I'm like, there. Are you familiar with Motown, the genre of Motown?
Nah, tell me about it.
In the 60s in the US, there is this genre of Motown, and it's very particular. You could like it seems impossible to retro. Like it's like you can't capture that sound again. They were recording with like the thing where like reverb was a bunch of these little bell shaker things and stuff, like just very, and then, but it was so passionate. And a lot of the songs are expressing kind of the same thing of like being helplessly in love, of like there's a song, This Weak Heart of Mine, that said is like, this weak heart of mine been broke 1,000 times. Each time you break away, hurting me more and more. But if you leave me 1,000 times, 100 times I'll take you back. I'm young, whenever, and I'm that way with cats now. Like with, I'm helplessly like, you have 100% of the power whenever if I'm not obligated to go somewhere, I will kneel before thee and just like whatever. But you can't communicate with a cat.
Yeah,
You can. You have to be tactile. Where do we get to cats? Turtles. Yeah, turtles.
but cats are worshipped. So in Egypt, right?
But they're worshipped in Detroit. That's a perfect word for what I do. I worship cat.
Yeah, because you said that you were devoted to them. So
yeah,
yeah.
I presume that they are correct about reality. So back to, are we gonna destroy the planet or worse, unleash a hell on earth that is survived within but is just so much more hellish than now? And perhaps, I don't think it could be worse than the past, but also no, that's me being rosy. Anyway, are we going to take this straight to hell, or are we going to, and I think the solution is, be more like how cats are, because they wake up, not the part of being mysterious and like seeming like they're conspiring to be as confusing as possible, but the part where they're just being cats. I don't think there's an amended program going on. I don't think that I don't think they're conspiring with each other, and I don't think they're sitting and they're cognizant of what they're going to do next. They're just being cat the whole time. And I think if humans just did that, instead of being beholden to past momentums and conflicts, we'd be great. We'd be great with everything exactly as it is right now. We could be fucking on the path to fucking utopia tomorrow if there was just a full scale global mental reset. And I don't have that much LSD or the ability to deliver it. And I don't think it would just be one LSD. It would be like, but it would require a lot, but a lot of neurochemical intervention at this point. We're looping
like
so hard.
A sheet of acid.
I'm not the strongest believer in that acid is always. I don't think that acid is always helpful. Acid, I think, gives you it's like a performance enhancer of the soul if you are committed to improvement, optimization, kindness. Then acid is going to be very, very helpful tool for you to enact that, with it, to go and turn levers and stuff. But like the ayahuascas and the mushrooms, but the mushrooms are really weird. The ayahuasca is really weird too. Seems to have a plan that is like benevolent. or Earth centric at least. And what we're trying to do is not end the world now, right? That's our big thing. We're trying not to end the world. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, let's not.
Well, like, remember when? Have you watched the Lex and Elon podcast? Like the third one?
I think I have. I'm pretty. I haven't watched Lex Friedman, Mark Zuckerberg yet, and I am like almost like I'm putting it off because I feel like I need to watch it so closely and then make a determination about my interactions with the Meta platforms after that. But anyway, Elon, Lex
So
Friedman.
there's like an entire moment where I guess Lex asks him like, "Hey, when are we gonna get to Mars?" And so Elon is just like sitting there, and I guess it's like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, no clue, just sitting there like quietly for like 20 to 30 seconds, and then he's like 5 years, but that 20 to 30 seconds of calculation in his brain,
Mm-hmm.
very interesting.
You think that's what's happening? Do you think it's like buzzing
Yeah,
in
and like 100% we are headed towards something which is dystopic in nature. Although that's the thing, right? Like
That's
at
not
first,
100%.
I feel like I'm more of a pessimistic person when it comes to that. But like I'm just looking at things geopolitically speaking, and like the way things have been. Afghanistan now, Russia, Ukraine. I mean, Israel, Palestine has been going on for years. Like so much is happening and so much is ignored, but so much is happening at the same, like so much is happening and yet we ignore it until it becomes a problem. So until something is trending, it's not a problem. So this is the issue for about the internet, right? Like the internet shows us whatever the major consensus is. So right now, the main story on Twitter or the internet, I don't know why I said Twitter, is that Elon bought 9.2% of Twitter's stock. That's like the major headline. But no one cares about the two people that got killed in, let's say, Budapest, you know? So it's about influence, power, major consensus, a bunch of things that we pay attention to, and it's bad because we're essentially, I don't know, I think we're essentially giving into things that are easy, things that do not require effort. So that's where the entire reality thing comes in, right? We ask ourselves like, now we have all of this augmented reality, virtual reality, whatnot, right? So what does this entire physiology of ours is supposed to do if we are so attuned to or immersed in this entire virtual world? And the reason is that we as humans, since the very beginning, since the very primitive times, we've been wanting to get as freer as possible. And this freer is not like free speech or anything, it's like effort. We don't want to put effort in. So we make things which give us comfort. So maximum level of pleasure, comfort, lower level of effort, um, equals to reality at the moment. And it's sad because if you put effort in, like, imagine how better our reality could be all around.
So do it. So let's do it. Let's do that. I'm
Let's
more convinced every day that there's the flip. The flip gets switched. The switch gets flipped. That has the rest of reality musical, the festival, the very well may be a globular dream fractal that is shooting somehow out of my forehead and yours and everyone else's in some way that is ineffable. And so when we try to talk about it, we all we can say is words like trippy, weird, well, but really the weird thing is that your consciousness lens is limited to your vehicle, and and you couldn't maintain having a personality and even dip your toes in the water of fathoming the whole thing. But you kind of do when you have, like, say, DMT. But then you come back and it's not like there's a clear directive from anything that I've experienced. The clearest directive is just like, be kind to it because it's kind of you. Anyway, back to I'm thinking more and more that what you just said, making an effort. If we make an effort, and if you can actually, if your psyche and ego and every layer of your awareness spends a good amount of time in, I'm making a full effort, and look, I'm making progress, then you'll see progress manifest. And I mean that in a, like, I think that is the nature of reality. And the only way, and then when somebody would says the obvious pessimistic thing of like, that's fucking, or to call that narcissistic, I'm like, I'm saying that's your setup too. Like, you're set up in that way too. And the only way that it's gonna, but it's not going to be this 100% utopia thing. Like when people say, like, there's gonna be bad shit that is, I mean, there's really bad things underway right now. I fucking wish I had my hands on the levers to be able to help with some of the things that are just, and then other pending train crashes right now on totally the geopolitical chessboard is like, oh shit, when's that gonna blah blah. But then also we don't know what sort of optimistic things are going to come in to play, and we can just. But I think it comes down to that choice, and that's I went to the Beyond Order tour last night and saw Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, and it was focused on the rule of do not allow yourself to become resentful, deceitful, or arrogant. And that's very, very much where I personally and the world is at right now. If we lean into resentment, it's fucking hell. It's going to be hell quickly. You'll be impressed by how bad it can get. So don't do that. Instead, I would like to try. I would like to, more so than I ever have in my life, be able to say I'm trying my best, and not have to, have my fingers crossed behind my back. Like, have I really been trying my best? Because did it seem necessary? Did it seem necessary to try your best? And then it's like, and I have a million fucking nihilistic arguments ready to rip. I'll tell you why nothing really matters. But now that we're kind of at this point where it does seem, I think it's okay to be a little dramatic about it too. It's like, choose kindness and intelligence. And you don't even have to use words like kindness and love and stuff to those who, that doesn't register at all yet. I would like to think that the concept of love only continues to be to be a hit, and go viral throughout. But like intelligence, just it's so fucking stupid to fuck this up. This is such a this can be so good if you just don't utterly fuck it up. I don't think we intend to be as. I know we don't intend to be as awful as we did, because it's like, like in stories, they're in in campy fucking hero villain stories, the villain is like this cackling, joyful to be evil thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see those. The people who are most like evil examples, they're these hunched over fucking and they're just, you just see that they're always like, they've just got a million fucking lies in the chamber ready to rip to defend themselves from the truth that like, hey, you know, it's not, because I think a lot of people are in a place right now where they think this is necessary. I think that Putin thinks that. I think that Putin, that his mindset is I'm doing what's necessary, and I understand hard power, and this is. But I also think there's a gamble there. I think that I do think that he's lost his mind, and I think it's I mean, it's horrifying what has already happened. It's terrifying what could happen. That is such a fucked up, fucking terrible situation. And the only optimistic thing I can say about it is that it seems like there's a real good possibility that it plays out in such a way where his modern blunder of having a Napoleonic Hitlerian episode of resentment and of evil. And it doesn't have to be resentment and evil. I think that it seems like he has. No, man, that fucking speech. I mean, I wish I could understand Russian, man, but that fucking the speech that he gave, you know, pre-invasion for it. It's that sounds like that was like a rambling madman. Like you get somebody talking about who the problem is in the world, you know, sometimes, and you'll just hear like, especially like an older dude. You want to hear some fucking psychopathy. Ask an older dude who's making the world suck. They'll usually have an answer, and it's fucking usually incoherent. And because the only thing to do is the thing that is to pick up the pieces exactly how they are right now, and then tomorrow, and then tomorrow. Like, how do we make the best of what is right now? But the way, like, to be regarding conflicts from hundreds of years ago, like, you know, just like grudges from hundreds of years ago, that's fucking insane. And if the old guard dies and the new and just even just younger humans who aren't actually emotionally, psychologically, psycho-spiritually attached to any of that stuff, they know about it, but they're not like, we're gonna make a fucking militaristic or economic decision based on old grudge stuff. Like, we just need to stop being fucking like steeped in our own psychopathy on a governmental level, and we'll be kosher. But how do we get out of this without these people who have a propensity towards clawing upward in violence? How do we safely remove them? Because I think if you can safely remove the old guard, I don't think that we're going to replace them with and that this may sound overly optimistic, but I think I do think that it would get a little better. Like when people were worried about the technocratic momentums that are happening, it's like, you know, they may not be our fucking best, have our best ideas or be our most kindly hearts, but I'll take I'll take some tech bro overlords over this. I'd rather not have overlords, but I don't even think, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go. I think that people are getting the mass awakening that was foretold by one Terence McKenna, and like 2012 was like, I think 2012 was like a starting point when some thought that it would be a culmination. Like that was like, these momentums are happening. There's like, people are getting really hard to control, and yeah, it's gonna go. There's gonna be fires. That's for sure. There's gonna be metaphorical and quite literal fires. There's gonna be fires.
You know, one could say that we're all going to hell, but like I definitely see some sort of a technocracy happening, because like COVID kind of did this interesting thing, right? The other day I was looking at New Yorker, and the cartoons on it. So I was just like flipping through, and then this cartoon just comes up of this like person just watching TV and being like, "Oh yeah, the Ebola epidemic is not coming on the news anymore, so it probably means it's over," you know. And it reminded me of COVID, and I'm like, "Huh, interesting." So what's up with COVID? Because we don't like, because of the whole Russia Ukraine situation, and then now Elon 9.2% situation, we we have no clue as to what's going on with COVID, in terms of mainstream headline kind of stuff. Now, when that comes into play, it's hilarious that I look at it and I'm just like, wow. So we have an entire thing happening, but it's not going to be broadcasted. It's not going to be known because there's no major consensus on it, in the sense that people now at this moment existing are not really looking at COVID. Like, not all of us, but 130,000, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you should look it up. Americans have died of COVID in the last, I mean, this year, 2022. Is that on any mainstream media? I don't know. I mean, I think I read it on New Yorker the other day, which was crazy. It's crazy number. It's a crazy number, and it makes you wonder, And you were talking about Jordan Peterson before. Um, so was he saying something like, "Don't acknowledge or a particular emotion, which is resentment"?
No, don't lean into resentment. It's like, don't allow yourself to become resentful, arrogant, deceitful, because the world sucks. And you talked about the Cain and Abel story of, so, Cain was making flimsy, insignificant sacrifices, like just really not worthy of, not worthwhile, not worthwhile sacrifices. Anything in life that you do that's worthwhile. Do you ever do something worthwhile? I remember one thing is like, you ever, you do something worthwhile, and on the other side, you're like, oh, that was easy. It's like, no, everything worthwhile is hard, So the reality that we're in, which I maintain that, and that both the spiritual people and now the science people, all the neuroscience people, like, what it seems like everyone seems to be convinced it's some sort of computer program, dream thing. It's not just a bunch of stuff that landed the way it is, as we'd like to think. Like, there is more than a material reality. That seems to be just observable now. It's like, I don't know, that don't see many left who. There's like Sam Harris, who's like really, really wants to be intensely rational and logical about everything, and there's several others who are real sticklers like that. But even them are like, and there's some stuff that is just plain fucking mysterious. What it really seems to me is, yeah, and I try to avoid the thing. Like, I had this song back in the day in which it says you are God, and nowadays I try to find different words of saying that, because it's like, okay, now you've got this noun. What does that mean? God? Does it mean the most important consciousness? Does it mean a force? Does it mean the all-encompassing thing behind everything? Whatever, but I just think that each consciousness that becomes aware of the potential to make a choice much more pivots in all of the fractal limbs of reality when you do that, much more than you're ready to walk around with the awareness of, because that's a bit stressful. if you take it in a worry, if you take it in a worrisome place, and that's why we required to invent the concept of love, or perhaps that's always been a force in the world, but like, the you have the resentment. I would say is definitely resentment. It is very effective at keeping the difficult conversation away and giving you the easiest knee jerk, which is fuck you, fucking, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because like being angry does suck and it hurts to carry that around, but it's way less effortful than what it is to like be like, how am I wrong, and how do and the big thing is like actually changing your practices about a thing, like, because usually, oh man, I had a fucking misunderstandings galore recently, and I'm people tell me their stories often, and I hear about conflicts and misunderstandings between people that are just, from the bird's eye perspective, it's just like, just stop. You two clearly love, or like regard each other. You have a lot of regard. People who have a lot of regard for each other, it seems like, from the bird's eye perspective, it's like, just forget about that fucking stupid thing, and things can be super copacetic, but you're just like, you're looping. And I'm doing the thing where I'm super ADHD. I'm hopping from thread to thread. I acknowledge that. Do I have a ship to land? Let me try to land the ship. So we talked a lot about how rumination on the past is depression. Like the depressive mind tends to be in the past. The anxious mind tends to be imagining terrible futures, or imagining that the present is, oh shit, it's happening like the past again. That happens to me a lot. Oh man, it's getting so clear now where it's just like, I'm just like, what fucked up last night? That I was worried that it would be like the past the whole time. I wasn't letting it be what it was going to be, because I was like, it's going to be the past. It's going to be like the past. It's going to be like the past, you know? And I think the whole species is in that place on the collective level. And the thing that about resentment, there's national resentment, there's entire ethnic groups that portions of them have a conflict story that has resentment. I mean, and to me, I'm so glad my life, the only example I've had of that in my life is that there was a time in my like late teens and then 20s, and it started stopping around 2000, maybe 18 or so, is when it really started to stave off. Or stave off is the wrong word. That's like stave off aging. It really started to cut off, and like, and yeah, it's been. I used to hate conservative Republican Americans, and I still hate a lot of the like neoconservative like momentums and stuff like that. But I hate the shitty parts of the other side just as much. But I was doing the thing that I can now very much relate, of what it is to be like, all these people are the problem. I really thought that conservatives in America were gumming up the gears of progress, and in a lot of ways they are. But to lean into the resentment of, it's like, it's them. I'm just so glad my parents never bestowed any of that to me, and like, it was never modeled to me that it was that an intelligent person can hate a large group of people, because it's like, you go out in the world and you meet diversity within groups, and it seems so obvious. But yeah, knowing that the planet has that conflicts amongst groups of people, but maybe there's an antidote to that. And I think everybody being taken care of is a probably clear antidote to that, because you need to be pretty dissatisfied to be willing to risk your safety to fight, right? Who do you hate, Sanj? You hate anything or anyone? I've lost your audio.
Oh wait, yeah, no, I had myself on the mute.
Maybe it was good that it was muted, because you said something that you should. What
Uh,
do you hate is there anything, is there anything that you would say that you hate in this world?
I wouldn't say I completely hate things, but I would say I detest them. I don't. I'm
That's
not.
assuming.
Yeah, I don't know why it seems like a sophisticated word than hate for
Yeah.
some reason. Um, but kind of like going back to Jordan Peterson for a second, and what he talked about resentment, right? I don't think I don't think I mean I wouldn't agree with him there. I would say that you're allowed to feel whatever you're feeling, because if you repress things, they're going to come out anyway. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if something happens today which is traumatic in nature, and or catastrophic, let's say, like something happened, and now I'm just like, that it shouldn't be talked about, or the condition of humanity right now, it's all very detrimental, so shouldn't be talked about. But if you repress those resent like feelings, let's just say feelings, it's gonna come out anyway, in some sort of an action, like in some way, which is going to be out of nowhere. So I wouldn't agree with Jordan there. I would say
I
that.
think you're not, but he's not. He isn't saying don't feel resentment. It's don't allow yourself to become resentful,
Mhm.
deceitful. So where you're very like the verb of your existence is you are one who resents. Like I definitely think feel the hate. Like I would say a thing that I hate. I hate coercion, and so those who coerce, I and that's the reason I'm so glad that I'm in a societal situation where I am denied the option of just to explode with fury on that. Um, because people who coerce, people who have people like currently like under lock and key, I I think that I have it in me to kill them. Thank God that's been made such a bad choice that I'm not even going to entertain the thought. I'm just going to be like, I hope they're brought to justice. And if I find out about, a particular thing, then I would assist in that, but like, yeah, human trafficking and things like that. There's real fucking hatred and rage, right? And I think that uh, honing in and leveraging that that reasonable fury that we have and pointing it at the right terrible thing would be really positive right now. But also, um, there is a lot to be said about that. There's only so much good you can do battling that which is bad. And it's just so much better use of energy to prop up and support things that are good or become and do, good. But and it's obviously it's not one or the other. But I do think this might just be a huge cop out because it's like, well, you be more well rounded. My existence sucks at conflict. My knee jerk is to at some point, all right, and now I'm trying to understand. And now I'm trying to and now I'm seeing that it's like, oh, you're doing this and this and this because you're denied this and this and this. And maybe it's not my responsibility to like make you fucking happy or whatever, but like, can we help this person? Can we fucking help this thing? You know? But in the case of like things that are like it's so fucking heavy with like stuff that's already happened and justice. Fuck, man. If you can wake up in the morning and be part of that effort to bring justice, I'm so in awe and I applaud those who can handle that. And maybe I could have been too, but I can't be a fucking like there's somebody probably who's a pretty benevolent like prosecuting attorney who is like has a personal mission of like I'm gonna fucking bring down people who coerce, you know. But that's not my lot in life. It just really these are not skills that I learned. I can play Studio Ghibli on the harmonica. I have not learned to fire a gun. Problem, like I may go my whole life and never become proficient at tactical violence, and maybe that's okay. In fact, maybe that's a good move for me. But since there is, I do hope that the might and fury that is there in the collective, I hope we get better at pointing it at meaningful things and actors, because it's in there. So what you're saying about like with there being resentment, yeah, like feel the resentment, sure, yeah, when it's right, when like yeah, but just don't lean in and don't live it out, like yeah,
Yeah, no, I get it now. I get it. I thought you meant like, just like don't feel it, because that would be,
yeah.
yeah.
No, feel
Um,
feel 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 the things. Feeling deceitful is that's interesting to think, but or feeling arrogant. But how do you feel deceitful? Yeah, not letting yourself feel is being deceitful, I would say.
exactly. Also, like you talked about conservative politics like a bit ago. It's very interesting to me to see that people on the right wing, um, who the liberal society have been condemning for a good amount of time, um, for some reason I don't know why, but they seem to be making some sense these days. Like when I look at people on the right wing, and they're talking about like ABC, um, and especially the right wing in your country, because the US basically influences most of the world, because of it being a superpower. So when I see the right wing politics in your country, right? Them criticizing Biden for XYZ reasons, it makes sense because they're being critical of it. And it needs to be criticized. Like his entire action on Afghanistan, his entire take with even Russia, Ukraine, like he's funding a lot of money to Ukraine, but at the same time there's nothing happening on site from NATO, like there's no intervention. And I think Zelensky's been asking for an intervention, like, hey, like Ukrainians are fighting, but like let's get the NATO in and let's really get this going, because they don't want to get the NATO in because there's this image that if we get the NATO in, there's some sort of a World War III kind of a situation, which I don't think, which it could be because NATO has like 30 countries in it and like stuff like that. But yeah, right wing people for some reason have been um, really critically thinking about these things and being and you know and speaking these things and like really putting out their messages about these things online, and in a very critical and cohesive manner. And I'm actually very much impressed, because when I look at the liberal left wing politics, for some reason it's becoming toxic. I don't know why. I don't
I
know
mean,
why.
those guys are pretty fucking toxic for a while over here. Over here, it's been pretty fucking toxic for a while.
Like people are getting too sensitive, way too sensitive, and like things on the internet have become crazy. Like if I do something, there's left and right people out there. There's always polarization, and it's crazy. We don't need polarization. We need, I don't know, like not everything is left and right. There's in between.
Game
And
B, I think, what solves that. Like because you can get out of that. You can get to where these terms are unnecessary, left wing, right wing, pretty quick. I think because I just see the alleviation of of human labor, of so many things that are tedious and suck, and you either have to pay somebody to do it, or all the different ways in which people are kind of economically coerced in a way to do things. Um, because what it seems to me, the way robots happen is one day we get word that like, oh, this, I mean, it's happening all the time. There's this new task is now automated, this new thing. And then so like the semis, okay. So, and I don't want to be just like total rosy glasses of just like what's possible, but I just see this as possible. And I see this as a good use of energy, both as like what to focus on, what to support, where for the attention to be. Because I think like this, like what you just said about the left wing, right wing in the U.S., which by the way, there's people who are quite critical of Donald Trump when that was happening too. This is the way the cycle goes. It's like you get a time where these are the people who now go on. Who are on a like perpetual constant outrage mode about everything that someone does, and that's the thing. And it's supposed to be that they that balances it out and makes it so that everybody gets criticized by their like equal opposite. It's supposed to, but it's becoming irrelevant. It's super toxic, and I think that just like when there's a group of friends who are fighting, and there's all these different things, like sometimes the best thing to do is move to a new city, just get the fuck out of all of it, like, and now now that all of the entanglements, can just fall away. And I think that with new, and the way that's going to happen, to not be too like utopian optimistic, is we're coming up on new overshadowing problems that will overshadow all the other. We won't have time for, like, that's already, I'm starting to see that people have less time for the culture wars stuff, but there are just less mental real estate, because there's these big barreling fucking problems in people's lives and in the society and everything.
The thing with Donald Trump, though, so very recently, this Nelk Boys podcast, Full Send podcast, they came up with a podcast with Donald Trump, right? And it's on the internet, it's on YouTube, and you can watch it. But then they took it down. I don't know if it's still up. I don't know what's going on with that. But it was just very interesting to see that we are doing what we did to Alex Jones, the same thing with Donald Trump. And it's crazy because we shouldn't be cutting people completely off, like, and that's where the entire left wing right wing thing comes in. We're repressing the right wing so much that the left is becoming toxic. I don't know what kind of weird effect is happening here, but politically speaking, it's just better to be at the center at the moment. But to me, when I don't know, when I look at left wing politics, it's becoming, even here in India, like, left wing is just getting toxic and toxic and toxic. I'm not saying that right wing is, some sort of like really quote unquote right.
It's a very toxic thing to do. I really I think it's just who's got the spotlight at this time. I must say it was just like true, but it's also like elements of, you're talking millions of people. Really, I find, speaking of politics now, to be like a mental masturbation. It's like really not. You're talking about millions of people, man, and you're talking about the loudest, shittiest, and sometimes most incoherent like voices from either extremity will get a lot of attention because it's like, holy shit, look at that. And then there's the thought of like, are there forces making it so that the things that we're focusing on are the most opposite of encouraging of our own autonomy? Regardless of that, working on that game B is where I think like the effort of just like this, like, we're having a conversation on the internet, and there might be a person who listens. And if that person listens, are we going to have them, are we going to direct their consciousness towards the existence of Donald Trump or fucking Joe fucking Biden? Or are we going to tell them that it's like, you're on a planet? It's a seriously mysterious sphere in outer goddamn space. And we call it outer space. Outer from what? From your skull? And that because that we're in this crazy mystery, and if anything, just default to making things a little less shitty is what I would say of that. So yeah, I don't know. I felt very. I left very inspired. The big thing that inspired me about last night really was just what I knew would be to be in the presence of thousands of people who are listening so intensely, because the our starting point is in the story of we're all human beings. It's difficult, like his wife Tammy Peterson talked first, and she talked about her experience with almost dying, and how she totally could have she totally could have made it hell just by being like, this is so unfair and painful and agonizing that this is happening to me. I guess reality is a terrible place. I guess it's hell. And then, she just describes how she was brought to the fork in the road of that, and how she pivoted. And now, and that is so powerful to me, to be with a bunch of people who that's our baseline. Because you go to you just go out in public, you go to the fucking store or whatever, and there's this sense of, here we are in fucking reality. I'm gonna get this food and chew it up and swallow it because I gotta, and because I like it. But just nobody's excited about anything. And then if you get people talking, it's like, yeah, well, the world's fucking on fire, and this decrepit fuck is leading us. But maybe that person thinks he's slightly less awful than the last decrepit fuck. I don't want to think about those things, and I think that stuff is crumbling. And the moment that it crumbles is going to suck for people who are most attached to it, I think. I also think that there's hope for to use these institutions for some good still, but ultimately they shall crumble. And I'm going to situate myself so it's less my problem than people who who are attached to those, or they've made a career out of those institutions.
Okay, so it's interesting that her name is Tammy.
Tammy.
Interesting. So what is intellectual tourism? It's interesting because what does it even mean to be a public intellectual? Does it mean that you have to be making a lot of, you have to be in this constant state of making a deep inquiry into what the human condition is, but also doing it very, very publicly, and you have this quote unquote fame. But at the end of the day, I don't know if I like the entire intellectual tourism thing. It doesn't really make sense to me, but I think it's a good thing, and that some people are trying it out. I think, if anything, your intellect, and if you are thinking at such a level, you should be able to freely circulate it and not go on tours. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but interesting that Jordan Peterson is doing that. I really like his lectures on him connecting Jung with Bible, because those lectures are really good.
That's what
He
last night was.
yeah, so that's the thing. He's really good with it. But I don't know about the tour thing. I have no clue.
Well, it was. I mean, maybe you should just experience that and then see what you think. Because it's a concert hall where there's totally rock bands and hip hop artists and all the like. And then tonight, it's a packed house. April 11th is sold out in Detroit too, and it's people sitting and listening and wildly applauding at 2 or 3 moments for this guy who's talking about life and the psyche and how stories. The one thing I remember from last night, he's like, so you watch The Lion King, and nobody thinks about that. You just suspend those aren't lions; they're drawings of lions voiced by humans, and they're lions that are acting like people. No. It's not obvious to me that I just love how much he says it's not obvious to me. It's a really great way of saying it's clear. Or no,
Did you
it's
see
not. It's not.
the Tim Dillon version of Jordan Peterson
Yeah,
thing?
the Prater distribution and he's like being Scottish, like this is Prater distribution. But I just want to say what you said about the intellectual tour, going on tour as a public intellectual. Okay, weird. Yes. You know what else is fucking weird, Sanj? What are they called? Influencers and followers. Yeah, that whole concept. But it's a thing that happens with humans. So just like with don't lean into that that reality is hell and that this is just totally fucked and we're just waiting to die and instead try to make the best of it. Like if there's gonna be influencers, then I hope they're influencing good stuff. However, am I going to take up the call to try to be as influential as I can be? Fuck the fuck no. Because I feel like so shitty about that kind of an existence. People are watching to see how one should properly behave and what we should think about, like, oh my God, to wake up thinking it's important how I behave today because there's a lot of people who want to behave more like me. I mean, do it if you're into it and God bless you if you do a good job at it because man, yeah, let's make the world as good as possible. But I don't want that. Ugh, gross. It's so gross. But the public intellectual thing, it was sweet to see a bunch of people very just so intensely listening. And you can hear in the applause that there's people like myself who like, man, there's so many relations in my life where people have, instead of watching me descend and bring them down with me, I'm not saying giving him like credit at the whole chorus of those who have been inspiring me the last several years. He's one of the voices in that. And he's the one that speaks to my very cerebral, wordy, but also mystical. That's the thing is like, I understand people who don't like Jordan Peterson, like the two big, I would say, categories of people who really dislike Jordan Peterson is either people who think that that they read some clickbait article trying to say that he's something phobic, which all of those are easily, if you look into it, it's like the guy's never said anything hateful. He's just this clinical psychologist. He's just like, he's very cerebral, but he also, part of his rubric is that there's some things to suspend, that there's a redemptive truth. There's something redemptive about truth. And he was saying last night, he talked to, okay. Yeah. But the two categories are people who, for some, like, I don't want to say the common words of like social justice, woke or whatever the fuck, just something coming from the angle of you're mistaking him for being like alt-right or right. He's not, I wouldn't refer to him as right when because everything that he's saying is just like, well, there's this, and then there's also this. And so the people who are super about this ism are like, no, you've got to say that it's that or nothing but that, or else we'll call you a thisist. Like, so there's either that category of people who are just like, and then there's people I think are very like the Matt Dillahunty video. Like there's people who philosophically go way deeper than him in terms of like, now there's this question, like really fun. But Jordan Peterson quite admittedly is like, there's a mystical element to reality clearly. And there's something redemptive in truth. So last night there was a part where it was like, what matters more, the fictional movie that you watched and are now inspired by and is now like the story that, like that is Jungianly, conducting your musical now. You watch a movie, you get a new story, and if it sticks to your bones psychologically, then it's now part of how you view the world. So what's more important, that you watch The Lion King or fucking Hamilton or fucking a Marvel movie, whatever, and now that's like conducting your psyche, or what you did this morning, you know, what you had for breakfast, how you got dressed, like how you got dressed and what you ate for breakfast. Like, I mean, that's materially true, but it's fucking irrelevant. So what's more important then? It just makes it, yeah. If we can make fiction that guides us to truer places, then that's realer than how you know how what happened when you got up this morning.
Well, it's it's interesting because when you look at the entire concept of touring as an intellectual, you're right. Like Jordan Peterson has gems. You know, he's good with psychology. He gets a lot of things right. But I think there's certain concepts in philosophy that he doesn't get right. But whatever, you know, we're all humans. We get things right. We don't get things right. At the end of the day, if we're able to intellectually move someone to an extent that they can sit down and inquire into things, then we did the job, you know. I
Yeah,
always say, if you go and watch a movie and it makes you think in the end, the director did his job or her job or they or them, you know.
yeah,
So it's interesting to see how intellectual tourism is a thing, because you're not wrong. Like with influencers, we have the same thing. Like we have influencers who suddenly become rappers and they're going on these tours, and you know, it doesn't make any sense, but you know, it's their thing. And so to the fans it's making a lot of sense, but as a whole it just doesn't make any sense, because we always allocate tourism to um, musicians and just like the actual literal meaning of it. So interesting concept. I don't think it's ever happened before. I like it's a very unique case of intellectual tourism, because I've never heard that Sam Harris has gone on an intellectual tour
yeah.
throughout the country.
They've done speaking events. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they go on like these speaking events, like these what do you call it, conferences and stuff like that. But it's not like a tour, like, you know, like I'm dropping dates, like, you
Yeah,
know, March 15th I'm going to be there. You know, that's a very interesting concept, because it's essentially that you just like go to this platform and you're just speaking to like a bunch of people and influencing them. I would say that he's doing a brilliant job if he's able to like just get up there and just like like, you know, because it's such a big responsibility. It's such a big responsibility.
yeah.
Um, but at the same time, it's being so raw, you know. So very excellent what he's doing there. Yeah, I don't get exactly why people like don't like Jordan Peterson that much. I try to think about it. I think it's mostly politics, as you were talking about before, like phobia, something transphobia, whatever. Um, I haven't researched myself enough on that one, but I know from the entire Brett Weinstein situation with Evergreen that narratives are usually twisted, and you should not believe everything that you see on the mainstream media. Like I think this is like understood at like multiple levels of consciousness at this point, that anything which is mainstream based on major consensus is favored more because it has certain qualities, right? It has a particular quality that we like. So we choose it. It's generally very interesting. I don't know where we are headed as humanity though, but going back all the way to intellectual tourism, very interesting concept. I think if more intellectuals adapt to that, like imagine Eric Weinstein saying, "Hey, I'm coming to I don't know, Berlin on March 15th." You
Play
know,
guitar after too.
yeah, like, you know,
Yeah,
very interesting
I want to do
concept.
stuff like that. I want to have there be Q&A, like podcast, like do a musical and comedy concert, and then open it up for Q&A and be ready to go right deep into some shit. Like one of the things last night, and that's the last thing I'd like to say about last night, just because like yeah, it's all I can just say is the experience to me is the reason I would say that was a good experience and something worth, and I'm glad that it's touring and happening, is you get a bunch of people together for a very church-like, more so than church that I used to experience, because church would be this eye-rolling, like, fucking here we are doing that. To have people intently listening. And there's something shitty about people who hang on his every word. Of course, that sucks. Back to the influencer thing. I wish humans weren't like this. I wish that everybody, like I super value individualism, but I also like can't paint my values upon the whole world. But like for me, it's like, yeah, I'm not fucking hanging on everybody's every word. It's like somebody who makes me think, somebody who I feel is genuine. There's people who are very, very, very different, saying very different things from George Peterson that I also find very genuine. So I listen to them. I find that there's, but particularly this in the Q&A, there was a question about like how much do you tell your kids about the overwhelming suffering and the abyss, like how much you tell your kids about the abyss sort of thing. It's like, and he was like, you tell, the job of the parent is to tell them, that the darkness is real, but there's something in you that is sufficient to get through it, or to overcome it, or for what I see now, like, because this is my story, that this works for me. Reality presents me with problems and pain, and I'm given the choice of resentment and causing more pain, going deeper into the problems and causing myself more problems, or transmuting that into art and effort, and dare I say love. I am I remain in an inspired state by being in a reality that is partially nightmarish, has been highly dissatisfying a lot lately, and in some categories. In other categories, I'm more satisfied than I've ever been, but in some, it's just like, but that willingness to proceed is that is the redemptive choice, and curiousness. So yeah, if I'm making art and I'm curious and I'm loving and like highly valuing my relations, that's something that's very changed in me, is I've really definitely much more I love humans, man. And I love them knowing that we're failure factory fucking fuck up machines, man. We fuck shit up, dude. We fuck shit up. We fuck things up. We fuck our relationships up. We just fuck things up, man. We fuck things up. We're fucking weird. We're weird as fuck. But if you just choose to, like, okay, I see that. I am analytical and critical of human fuck ups and failures, and particularly shittiness, meanness, things like that. And then there's things that like magically remain outside of but it's also part of my steering. Like, and this is very, several would judge me for saying this, but part of the thing that shapes my reality is that all this evil that we speak of, I have to look into stories of the past, fictions about the present and sometimes past, and or go looking for it, because in my immediate life, there's mostly just a bunch of lovely people who fuck up a lot constantly, and I can love these people who fuck up a lot, because I'm one of them. I fuck up a lot. I have the best intentions. I swear to God. I swear to God. But I fuck up. I have hurt people, and I'm sorry, but I will probably fuck up and do so again.
That's what it means to be human. Like, we all have positives and then the Jungian shadow self, as Peterson would probably like bring up. But no, you were talking about individualism before, and it's very interesting because I think us as a collective society, we have adopted this individualistic construct so much that we cannot exist as a whole, as a collective, because in order to exist as a collective there has to be synergy, but we don't have synergy, uh, or emergence. We have individualism at every level possible, because we all want to think for ourselves, we all want to do things independently. But when it comes to like agreeing upon things, it's either very polarized, or it's, what I was saying about major consensus. Like I have to construct this entire major consensus argument a little bit too much. But when I really look at individualism, I think it has affected our collectivistic society a lot, because now we don't really agree on a lot of things. And I'm not saying that we need to agree on things in order to exist. I'm saying that we need to agree on certain things in order to live nicely, in order to live peacefully. I mean, uh, like if we don't agree on like the laws that we have, then we wouldn't have like, a crazy, like we wouldn't have this reality that we have right now. Like imagine like a purge, like imagine like people just going absolutely fucking crazy out there on the streets.
I haven't seen those movies. You talking
I
about the
mean,
Purge?
imagine like there's no laws for a second, and because laws are agreed upon, like ethics is agreed upon, it's collectivistic, it's community. But when I think about individualism, there's a beautiful part of it. There's freedom. There's so many beautiful things with it. But then there's also a shadow part of it that
Sure.
we don't want to recognize, that we don't want to talk about, because again, uh, it gets thrown into politics. So we're like, oh shit,
Mm.
like politics.
Mm. How do we get
And
how do we get more people to recognize that they're doing a balancing act and just understand that there's balance in every perceived or real binary choice that we come upon, or spectrum between order and chaos, collectivism, individualism, like how do you get that mass understood without something kind of spiritual? I mean, can you just, or I mean, and science, I think, is the way of doing that, which is this is really interesting. I'm starting to notice that science is a form of not just religion, but spirituality. Like some people's spirituality is that they believe in what can be materially observed. If it can be materially observed and it can be repeated and it can be analyzed objectively, then it's divine to them. They just don't use those words. And so maybe because science is a, an easier sell, maybe not easier sell, but it's really marketable to tell somebody that's like, well, what is real? Okay. People used to say that it was gods and it was things of the like, gods and stuff. And now it's like, well, you actually have the ability. Just look. What you can see and what you can, as we say, prove, that's what's real and that's what's important. So now we're at this like fork in the road where it's like, are we gonna fucking annihilate ourselves or create fucking absolute hell on earth? Or are we gonna make this a fun little festival that ends in death? Yeah. But who says that's that bad? I mean, that's a big, like, it's definitely a story that you're running in your head that it's just such a bad, it's so bad that you have a limited time to exist. Because, 'cause I'm, I have no idea. I get bored so quick when somebody defined passion the other day, like romantic passion, as that it is fueled by fear of loss. And that's why people who are together for a very long time or are very secure, like, get bored, because there's no fear of loss there. You get a little fear of loss there, you get an almost breakup, or you get like that. And now suddenly this person is the most important in the world, and you fucking can't stop thinking about them, And I've experienced so much of that. It's like, I don't particularly like that that's the setup, but yeah, that like passion. And so that, take that thing, scaled out, juxtaposed onto the situation with the world right now. We were living like we had all this time and everything was so settled. And now, if you look around the world, it's not. We need to figure some shit out or we might lose it. So now we're impassioned again. I'm impassioned. I have passion about reality now.
So when we think about reality, right? There's an interesting thing. So imagine that we are in a simulation. So I was thinking about this before, right? If we are in a simulation, then the person who is making this entire thing happen has to be so clever that we don't even know that we are in a simulation, that we don't even question that there is a simulation in the first place. So I think that is one argument that could defeat this entire simulation theory of reality as to what is real. What is real? Like, is real what is perceived? Is real our senses? I mean, this is what Descartes was talking about like years ago. Like, our senses are deceiving. They deceive us. It's not like we cannot rely on sensory data 24/7. And so it's very interesting to me to see that we as a collective society have evolutionized, I would say. I don't even know if that's a word, in a way that we have shifted from what is here and now onto what is there. And I'm using all of these words in such a weird manner that I don't even know if it's poetic. I don't even know if it's anything. But like, I think we're all headed towards this cybernetic, transhumanistic future, which is going to feel so unreal that it is actually real. And so that's the crazy part about reality, that honestly we don't even fucking know where
Mm-hmm.
we are going. But we know we have some idea, but we don't have all the idea. We don't know,
Mm-hmm.
I know, but I don't know anything. It's literally pulling pulling in Aristotle and saying I know nothing. But it's true. Like, we can contemplate and endlessly about what is real, what is not, what's happening right now, what's going to happen in the future, what happened before. But it's all about knowing that, hey, like, this could be a possibility, so let's just try to prevent it. This is a thing that like really frustrates me, right? which is that which is this concept of trending. And I'm not saying that there are things that trend which aren't good. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, all of a sudden, you go on like Twitter for a second and you're like, wow, like climate change is trending today. And then you're all of a sudden motivated to post stories about climate change and like, but why aren't you thinking about climate change when it's not trending? And this is my frustration with it. Like, most of the people in my generation, either they are indulging in hedonistic activities, which, not judging, or they're complaining about things. But the entire aspect of complaining about things is where my frustration begins, because, hey, like, if you really care about climate change, maybe do something about it, and care about it 24/7 instead of caring about it because someone posted a hashtag, you know so internet has become so integrated with our reality that we think that what is real is a question materially, is a question physically, is a question of now, here, in this particular phase. But honestly, what is real is now a question of here and there being the cybernet. So we're already cyborgs. It's not that we have to yet become, like this AI driven, super intelligent, whatever, neural linked people. No, like we already are living double lives. Like we have this life, and then we have this virtual life. I always say to people here in my family, or like whatever, just passing through, that there's one thing to that this relationship that I have with you right now, and then as soon as you're gone, then I have an entire different reality, which is by myself.
Mhm.
So we are easily,
Yeah.
influenced by a lot of factors, and
Yeah.
it shows.
Yeah. It is true. My alone world is the context switch of now when I'm speaking to a person, and then when another person enters the room or conversation, it's huge. And what I hate, I was gonna find a softer word, but I'll say what I hate about this what the social networking stuff, like what it does to my mind to have that in my mind and in my pocket, and to be, I doom scroll less than I ever have, but it happens sometimes. And which I found a really great tip for avoiding that is just always before you go to on your phone, before you go to Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, like always ask yourself before doing it, what's my intention with this? Am I looking for a thing? Am I looking to express a specific thing? Am I trying to connect with a specific friend? And if you don't have an answer to that question, don't fucking do it, because then you're just like, okay, Lords of Chaos, hit me, you know? Um, but what I was saying, what I hate about it is, yeah, I'm being influenced by things that I wouldn't choose off a menu, and they're just in my head a lot. And it's being decided for me what to talk about. The Oscars slap. I'm not going to get into that right now, but like that, like fucking really gripped the
Let's
country
talk
and world.
about it. Let's
No,
talk.
I have to stop this podcast. Actually, it's been an hour and a half, and I'm hosting a friend who is here from another state. I have to go exactly as you're saying. I have to go into IRL world and leave this, but
Let's just say to end this podcast, the entire slap thing though is
I
so
can't get into it. I can't get into it.
it's so hilarious. Like, do
It's
you even?
heavy too, though. It's heavy as fuck too.
But like, the guy laughs. Okay, like you have to imagine. Like, I watched the entire thing. Will Smith is laughing at first, and then all of a sudden, this guy goes up on the stage and slaps the fucking comedian. Like, it's I don't like what Will Smith did. I like.
I can't get into it right now. There's so much to that, because then you got to talk about it harkens so much, and that's what it's interesting sometimes, because like I guess it evolves the society to talk about things deeply, but it also lances boils, and you get to see people who fucking I get to see people posting showing that they have like no regard and respect for polyamorous relationships. But like when the way they talk about Will and Jada, like there's that, and seeing that, it's just like, man, fuck, we got a ways to go with that, where people fucking.
But that's the
It's
thing. Do
just,
we even know it's a polyamorous relationship at this point? Because like what we know is what comes up, right? Like we know the entire entanglement shit that happened. We know now that Will Smith slapped the entire, like whatever. We know these two instances happened, and now we're making a judgment upon it. So we think we know, but we honestly we really don't know as to what the
I
fuck's
don't
going.
fucking like to talk about celebrities. I don't,
But
but
like this
I think
entire
it's meaningful for
movement
some
thing
people.
is it's crazy because like I wouldn't even know that Oscars happened if this didn't happen. Like, you
And
know
then
what I
to the
mean?
people who think that it was that they who think that it was totally set up for that reason, yeah, it's fucking. It's such that I like to pilot. I mean, I like to pilot my focus away from things that I'm just observing and criticizing things that are out of my control. I do like to do a bit of that. Like actually mind policing in that way, because I've spent enough time just being like, that's fuck this is that, and where I could actually be kind of fixing things or just helping make things a little bit better. I do actually have to go to Reality the Musical, the festival.
In real life. I hope you enjoy.
Let us do this again as soon as possible, and I hope to see you in Reality soon.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to just being there and us having like a podcast in real life.
Oh yeah, in a studio, we're gonna smoke all of the weed as we talk. It
It's
will
gonna
be.
be a high podcast. It's gonna be. I'm actually stoked. I just wanna fly. Honestly,
I
let's
I would like
do
you
it.
to be in the air as soon as possible. Keep me updated.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, happy reality, guys.
Happy reality to you, Sanj. Happy reality, everybody. Bye. 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 Exit full screen. Awkward ending. Happy reality.